In 2014, the world was shaken by a mystery that remains unsolved to this day. A commercial airplane, the Malaysian Airlines Flight 370, vanished without a trace. The aircraft was carrying 239 people on board. After 7 years, with numerous search missions conducted across oceans and continents, the question still echoes. What really happened before Flight 370 disappeared? And what are the leading theories that investigators have uncovered since? It was just past midnight at Kuala Lumpur International Airport. The sky was clear. The weather was ideal for flying. On the tarmac stood a massive Boeing 777 preparing for its journey. From the cockpit, the calm voices of pilots made their final checks with air traffic control. Malaysian 370 request flight level 350 to waypoint Bay B. This was Malaysian Airlines Flight 370, a regularly scheduled international flight between Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and Beijing, China. On board was Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah, a respected and experienced pilot. Alongside him was First Officer Farik Abdul Hamid, a young co-pilot with solid credentials. The flight also carried 10 cabin crew and 227 passengers from various nations. At exactly 12:40 a.m., the aircraft was cleared for takeoff. It lifted smoothly into the skies above Malaysia, climbing steadily to 35,000 feet as it made its way over the South China Sea. Everything seemed normal. The skies were calm. Communication was stable. As Flight 370 approached Vietnamese airspace, it made its routine contact with air traffic control in Ho Chi Minh. At the same time, Kuala Lumpur Control signed off, ending its jurisdiction over the flight. Their final exchange was brief. Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh on 120.9. Good night. Good night, Malaysian 370. That would be the last known voice communication from the aircraft. Just 90 seconds later, Flight 370 vanished from the radar screens, not only from Kuala Lumpur, but also from Ho Chi Minh and even Bangkok air traffic control. Suddenly, they could no longer track it. This was alarming. Normally, an aircraft is tracked using 2 transponders, devices that transmit the plane's location, altitude, and identity back to ground control. But with Flight 370, both transponders stopped transmitting at the same time. That raised a troubling question. Was it a technical failure, or did someone deliberately turn them off? Authorities repeatedly tried to contact the aircraft, sending radio calls and emergency pings, but there was no reply. The flight was scheduled to arrive in Beijing at 6:30 a.m. But when the expected landing time came and went, and there was still no sign of the aircraft, Flight 370 was officially declared missing. Thus began what would become the most expensive and extensive search operation in the history of aviation. Initially, search and rescue teams focused their efforts in the waters between the South China Sea and the Gulf of Thailand, the area where the aircraft was last seen on civilian radar. But the mystery deepened when Malaysia's military revealed data from their long-range radar systems. Unlike civilian radar, military radar does not depend on a plane's transponder. Instead, it detects aircraft by bouncing signals off them, allowing them to track even unresponsive targets. Based on this radar data, authorities discovered something shocking. Moments after contact was lost, Flight 370 had veered off course. Instead of continuing northeast toward China, it turned sharply west, then made a long leftward arc, looping back over the Malay Peninsula and passing near the island of Penang. From there, it continued flying steadily toward the northwest until it completely vanished from military radar coverage. The new data expanded the search zone dramatically. Search vessels and aircraft were now deployed across a much wider area, including the Strait of Malacca, the Andaman Sea, and even parts of the Bay of Bengal. Despite these efforts, no debris, no distress signals, no wreckage, nothing was found. Investigators then turned their attention to satellite communications. Like most modern aircraft, Flight 370 was equipped with a SATCOM terminal, a system that sends and receives transmissions between the aircraft and ground stations via satellite. Before takeoff, the SATCOM system logged into a satellite network, establishing a connection with a ground station in Perth, Australia. This station logged all communication traffic with the aircraft. According to those records, everything seemed to be working properly at the beginning of the flight. But after the plane veered off course, the satellite link abruptly went silent. For a few minutes, it was as if the aircraft had disappeared from space itself. Then 3 minutes later, the terminal automatically reconnected to the satellite network. This unexpected login indicated the aircraft was still powered on and flying, but something had definitely gone wrong. The SATCOM system continued communicating for nearly 6 more hours, sending automated pings known as handshakes between the aircraft and the ground station. During this time, 2 satellite phone calls were made to the aircraft from ground personnel. The calls reached the SATCOM system but were never answered by the cockpit. Additionally, 5 automated status requests were sent by the ground station to confirm the aircraft's connection. Each one received a response. By calculating the time delay between the sent and received signals, investigators were able to estimate the distance of the aircraft from the satellite at various points. While these signals didn't reveal the exact location, they allowed experts to map a possible flight path, an arc that covered vast stretches of the southern Indian Ocean. Factoring in the aircraft's fuel range, speed, and known performance capabilities, analysts concluded that Flight 370 likely continued flying south until it ran out of fuel, eventually crashing into the ocean. This new information shifted the focus of the search dramatically. Now, attention turned toward a remote region of the southern Indian Ocean, an area under Australia's jurisdiction. Australia led the charge, coordinating an international fleet of search vessels, planes, and sonar equipment. Over the next 2 years, they scoured a mind-boggling 4.5 million square kilometers of ocean. But not even a trace of the aircraft was found. Authorities also deployed hydrophones, underwater microphones, strategically placed throughout the Indian Ocean. Their goal was to detect any unusual sounds like the impact of a plane crashing into the sea. There were 4 hydroacoustic stations located near the potential crash zone. If Flight 370 had plunged into the ocean, the sound would have been unmistakable, a deep, thunderous roar echoing through the ocean floor. But when the data was analyzed, they found nothing unusual. No crash sounds, no explosions, nothing. Flight 370 was also equipped with 2 underwater locator beacons designed to activate automatically in the event of a crash and emit a signal for up to 40 days. Search crews detected a few signals underwater, seemingly consistent with the frequency of the plane's beacons, about 3,000 meters deep. They immediately deployed autonomous underwater vehicles to scan the area. Weeks were spent mapping the seafloor, but in the end, nothing was found. One man who joined the search in a very personal way was Blaine Gibson, an American lawyer and adventurer. Haunted by the mystery and driven by empathy, Gibson traveled from the U.S. to Malaysia to meet the families of the victims. He decided that if the search parties couldn't find the plane underwater, he would look on land, or more accurately, along shorelines. He began traveling to coastal areas and remote beaches, hoping to find debris that may have washed ashore. He consulted with oceanographers, and together they created simulations to model ocean currents and possible debris drift patterns. The data led him to Mozambique on Africa's southeast coast. There, he asked local fishermen if they had seen any unusual wreckage or metal fragments. One fisherman handed him a strange object. It was later confirmed to be a horizontal stabilizer panel from MH370. Encouraged by this breakthrough, Gibson offered small cash rewards to fishermen who brought in other potential debris. More and more parts began turning up: metal panels, insulation, and fragments from the aircraft. A total of 31 pieces of debris were eventually recovered. However, when investigators analyzed the fragments, they found no signs of explosion or burn marks. This ruled out some theories, but not all. Still, the aircraft itself, the fuselage, the black boxes, the passengers, remained missing. In 2017, the official search was suspended. A year later, an American salvage company called Ocean Infinity launched its own search with cutting-edge equipment. But after another year, they too gave up. To this day, without the main wreckage or black box data, we may never know exactly why Flight 370 disappeared. But here are the leading theories. Theory number 1, it's hijacking. 2 passengers boarded Flight 370 using stolen passports. This initially raised alarms, but after thorough background checks, authorities discovered that the 2 men were simply asylum seekers fleeing their home country. They had no criminal history and no links to terrorist groups. The hijacking theory was eventually ruled out. Theory number 2, lithium battery explosion. The plane was carrying 11 metric tons of lithium batteries in its cargo hold. Investigators considered the possibility of a fire caused by the batteries. This might explain why the plane turned back, as if attempting an emergency landing. But if it was trying to land, why would it fly southwest over open ocean instead of heading back to Kuala Lumpur or another airport? The theory remains inconclusive. Theory number 3, cabin pressurization failure. This theory resembles what happened on Helios Flight 522. If the plane lost cabin pressure and the pilots were incapacitated due to hypoxia, the plane could have continued on autopilot for hours until it ran out of fuel and crashed. This theory fits the data and is widely considered one of the most plausible scenarios. If you'd like to watch the full story of Helios Flight 522, check the link in the description. Theory number 4, deliberate act by the pilot. Captain Zahari had recently gone through a divorce, and some investigators believe he may have been emotionally unstable at the time. A flight simulator found in his home contained a practice flight path eerily similar to the route taken by MH370. While this theory is highly controversial, some experts believe the flight may have ended in a controlled ditching, intentional and calculated. But again, all of these remain just theories. Until the wreckage is found, until the black boxes are recovered, we may never know the full truth about what happened to Malaysian Airlines Flight 370. One thing is certain, for the families of the victims and for the world, the silence left behind by Flight 370 is louder than any answers we've received. If this mystery intrigued you, leave a comment below. What do you think happened to Flight 370? Do you believe it was a technical failure, a deliberate act, or something else entirely? And don't forget, subscribe to my channel for more mysteries, true-to-life stories, and investigations from around the world. Until next time.